स्क्रीन वैसे आ रही है ना, तो वैसे
Sir, he is in touch with
Good morning to all dignitaries, guests, and delegates with great joy and immense exultation. I am privileged to welcome the Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Kadambot Siddique, Hackett Professor of Agriculture, Chair and Director, the UWA Institute of Agriculture, the University of Western Australia, Perth, Australia. I request all the dignitaries onto the stage. Please. We also have Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, Dean, Joint Director, Education, IRA. Dr. Vishnatha Chinnasamy, the Head, Division of Plant Physiology and Coordinator, School of Basic Sciences. I also invite Dr. Madanpur, Professor, Division of Plant Physiology. Dr. C. Bharatwaj, Principal Scientist, IRA. Most of us would agree that research is simply unfinished until you publish your experiments or ideas for others to read. Because it's through publication, the knowledge is shared with the rest of the scientific community and existing knowledge base in a particular field is improved. And for young researchers like us, it's a way to exhibit our creativity and research capability. And today, we are honored to have an eminent scientist like Dr. Kadambot Siddique to deliver a talk on the title Publish or Perish, Maximizing Your Chances to Get Your Manuscript Rapidly Accepted. He is recognized as one of the highly cited researchers in both the fields of plant and animal science and agricultural sciences. We are delighted to have you today with us, sir. Now I request Dr. Madanpur to give the bouquet to the Dean, Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, to honor the chief guest, Dr. Kadambot Siddique.
I got one good bucket. So what happened to the one I got? I think you are recycling that. I think it's the same.
I request Dr. Rashmi Agarwal to honor the chief guest, Dr. Kadambot. I request Dr. Madanpal to honor the chief guest. Now I request Dr. Vishnatha Chinnaswamy to welcome the team with bouquet.
You all got it.
I would like to invite the head of the division, Dr. Vishnathan Chinnaswamy, to introduce the speaker.
So, good morning to all of you. I'll welcome and then Dean Madam will introduce the speaker. So, good morning to all of you. First of all, I welcome Professor Kadambot Siddique, and who is, as introduced by Malini, is Head Professor of Agriculture, Chair and Director of the University of Western Australia Institute of Agriculture and the University of Western Australia. And most of you will be knowing about him. And although a formal introduction will be given by the Dean, he is the apt or the best person suited for today's lecture. And his number of citations today morning, it is 32,670 citations. And H index is 92 and I-10 index is 433. And I know whether anybody can guess how many papers he has already published in 2022. It is already 62 papers are published in 2022. So I don't think we will get any best person to speak about the today's topic. So I welcome Professor Kadambot. I welcome our Dean Madam, Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, the Dean and Joint Director Education. We welcome you, Madam, and you are here for all the programs and mentoring the students and faculty of the IRA. And I welcome Dr. Madan Paul and Dr. Bharadwaj. You have organized Dr. Kadambot's visit today. So I am thankful to you for organizing this important lecture here. I welcome Professor Srinivasan, Dr. Aruna Tyagi, and all the scientists and the students, friends who have joined here. Somebody can come in the front. We have a lot of space in the front. So I welcome all of you, and I am sure this will be a wonderful lecture, and you can freely interact with Professor Kadambot. Thank you very much. Now I request Dean Madam to formally introduce Professor Kadambot to the audience.
Good morning, all of you. It's a very great occasion today. Dr. K. Siddique, who is from University of Western Australia, is here with us as a chief guest and eminent speaker today. And as you heard Dr. Vishwanathan saying that he'll be talking to you on a very, very important topic. So on this occasion, it is my pleasure and really proud privilege to welcome again on my own behalf and on behalf of Director Dr. K. Siddique to this important lecture, and which is being attended by many of the faculty members and the students in the Division of Plant Physiology and Biochemistry. So I won't take much time in introducing the addressing all, but it's my really pleasure to introduce a speaker today. And the topic is publish or perish, maximizing your chances to get your manuscript rapidly accepted. And you heard Dr. Vishwanathan telling that the number of citations he had today morning, more than 32,000. So that itself, and the publications in 2022, 62. So it's a really, and that too, half of the year has not even passed. So it's a tremendous achievement with Dr. K. Siddique. And before I introduce the speaker, I would just like to briefly mention, I have a special connection with University of Western Australia. I was there for 3 months as a FO fellow in 1999. In the same university, I worked in soil science department. So it's really my very, very proud pleasure and privilege to introduce our speaker, Dr. K. Siddique. Professor Dr. Kadambot Siddique, he is a Hackett Professor of Agriculture Chair and director of the University of Western Australia Institute of Agriculture, the University of Western Australia, Perth. This is placed in Perth in Australia. He has over 30 years of experience in agricultural research, teaching and management in both Australia and overseas. He has developed a national and international reputation in agricultural science, especially in the biology, production agronomy, farming systems, genetic resources, breeding research in cereal, grain and pasture legumes and oilseed crops. Professor Siddique has conducted research on adaptation of crops to dryland environments and the phenological, morphological, physiological, biochemical, and genetic traits that enable crops to cope with various abiotic stresses. He has published more than 650 scientific papers and book chapters in the books. Professor Siddique is the highly cited researcher, as mentioned by Dr. Vishwanathan also, high sci in 2021 in 2 categories, agricultural sciences and then plant and animal sciences. And Professor Siddique's Google Scholar H index is 50 and citations 31,000 written here, 859, but now it is more than 32,000. So it's a tremendous achievement, and it's a really, we are very fortunate to, and we'll be hearing from him and how we can proceed and how, because IRA is towards the global university ranking. So we have a lot to learn from Professor Siddique. Professor Siddique is also a fellow of Australian Academy of Technological Sciences and Engineering, African Academy of Sciences, Australian Agriculture Institute, Indian National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, and Foreign Fellow of the Pakistan Academy of Sciences. Professor Siddique was designated by the United Nations FAO as Special Ambassador for the International Year of Pulses 2016. And he has, I think, a lot of collaborative projects also with IARI, and Dr. Bharadwaj is one of the collaborators, and I think Renu Pandey and others are also collaborating with him in many of the areas. Professor Siddique, the recipient of national and international awards, including Urabai Memorial Award, then member of the Order of Australia, 2014 Western Australian Year of the Award, then Dunhuang Award for China's Gansu Provincial Government. He also received the Friendship Award from the Chinese Central Government in the recognition of his outstanding contributions to agricultural sciences and education in China over the years. Professor Siddique was a Western Australian Indian for the year 2021. Great to hear that. Professor Siddique has also trained numerous honors, MSc and PhD students. He has developed an extensive network of scientists within Australia and has also established a diverse range of overseas. Name the country he has the collaboration. China, India, Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Malaysia, East Timor, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Europe, Canada, USA. So proud, sir, you are here today with us, and we will be hearing you. And many of the collaborative research and educational projects are running in these countries with his collaboration. He holds a number of national and international committee positions also. So we are very fortunate, sir. We welcome you on this occasion, and we will be very happy and delighted to hear you, sir. And all the students will be benefited besides our faculty, sir. So welcome, sir.
That's right. Better this one or use this one? Sir, here is better. Okay. Thank you for the kind introduction, Professor Agarwal, and also Professor Chinnaswamy. Can you hear me? Yeah, and thank Dr. Bharadwaj and Professor Madan Pal. And it's really a pleasure to come back to IRI after 2 years of isolation. And also, you know, I was a student here, which no one mentioned that. So these memories come back. It's a great time for India to leap forward in science and technology. And so my humble presentation will hopefully help. Many of you know you have published, but I think we really need to sharpen our focus. In terms of ranking, I think we need to really aspire to be one of the best in the world, not in India. Let's just look at that. So a lot of the things which you heard about publication, citation, I think 67 or whatever published so far is absolutely due to the collaboration with my PhD students, collaborators, postdoctoral fellows, international collaborators. Professor Agarwal has just mentioned that about China. I've been associating with China for 20 years. And now with India, when I look back, there is really benefits coming. And it was a slow start, but we have some significant collaboration going on with India. A number of institutions, ICRISAT, IRI, ICR institutions in particular. I just had a look at the number of papers we have published together over the years, and ICR institutions is the top. And I was told the DG many times, and I will be meeting your Deputy Director General Education this afternoon. Again, how can we strengthen collaboration in terms of postgraduate program and so on. So my talk is going to be publish or perish, maximizing your chances to get your manuscript rapidly accepted in high quality journals. I didn't write that. Okay. Want to keep the keyboard here? Frozen. Okay, so you need to move, so I will keep on telling. So while before getting on to the my talk, I just wanted to introduce the city of Perth. This is the city. This is where the university, the color has been bleached out. It should be red in color. This is the beautiful Swan River. My department and offices are located just here. So it's a wonderful city. And this is about 1,600 hectares of national park in the middle of the city. So it's a very beautiful city. Next one, please. And you all know Australia is a very important continent. And we have Western Australia. This is the second largest state in the world. The first one is somewhere in USSR. So this is about, India is about 1.3 times bigger than Western Australia. So it's almost as big as India. And the population is only 2.6 million people. So you can see that there's not much people there. And most of them live in Perth, about 2 million. And my university is a very famous university. So the graduates get a very good employment and very good salary. And we have a lot of mining, agriculture, gold, iron ore, natural gas, and many things are happening in that state. Next one. And this is again bleached out, but you can see the campus. We don't have agricultural universities in Australia. So you may wonder, because it's an agriculture country. And when I first went for my PhDs in the university, I questioned why no agriculture university. Now, more and more, I realize it is the best thing happened to me because I can interact with engineers, medical professionals, nutritionists, law, and so on. So I think in India, there is a trend towards dividing agricultural universities into animal universities, horticulture. This is a bad trend because we have to integrate. The students have to learn how to integrate. Otherwise, there is no future. The farmers doesn't differentiate between animal, aquaculture, birds, or plants and crops. They are in greatest integrators. So that's a lesson I learned. Next one. Now, it is a global reputed university. So it's a really international organized university. We are only just about 100 years old. Australia is not very old in the white man's terms, only 200 years old. And we are top 100 in the world. I will explain some of those rankings. More importantly, it's just not about basic science, good connection with the industry. In my case, very strong connection with the farming community. In medical, they are really connected with the medical industry and so on. So some people say, oh, you cannot publish because you're doing some applied research. For me, there is no difference between applied research and pure research. It's the quality. You can have bad in applied research. You can have bad in pure research as well. So it is the quality, and you can publish. I'll show you applied research in good journals as well. And there are 40 universities in Australia, 40, and group 8 universities lead the pack. So we are part of the group 8 universities. So if you are going to study in in Australia look at for group 8, and of course others will say you can study non-group 8 as well. But there are differences. Group 8 in general is the lead research intensive teaching universities. Next one. So we were talking about Nobel Prize. Our first Nobel Prize we received in 2005. Professor Barry Marshall is a very close friend of mine. We have traveled together in Indonesia, Malaysia, China, and many countries. He graduated in 1974 in medicine. Then he went and did his doctoral studies, spent in the United States. He's the man who told that stomach ulcer is not caused by stress. It is caused by Helicobacter pylori, a bacteria. And no one believed him. He was doing dissection of the stomach for other histological studies under the microscope. He found bacteria surviving in the stomach under pH less than 2. And how can bacteria survive? And that really prompted him to see that the stomach ulcer is caused by this bacteria, and it is passed from mothers to children. And there's quite a lot happening in India. We have got the ulcer and this. Then no one believed. And all the doctors said, no, that's nonsense. So he treated himself with a cocktail of that bacteria, and he infected himself and developed the classical symptom of ulcer and stomach ulcer. And then he treated with antibiotics, and he got the Nobel Prize. Next one. Next one. So I won't talk about the institute which I'm leading. It's available on the website. And that also helped us now to really move forward in agriculture science. So I've been leading this institute for the last 17 years or so, in addition to my other duties as a professor and a teacher in my university. Next one. So the bottom line is that a small group of people are sponging beyond our weight. We are now 16 in the world. The last ranking in 2021, 2022 will come in August. And in agriculture science, we are #1. So you don't need to have a larger number. And institutions like IRI is an ideal place to punch beyond your weight, because you have some very cream of students, good staff, and it's a matter of now lining up and getting to the ranking. So I'm just saying that we are not an agricultural university, and we have to compete with the land-grant universities in the United States, mighty agricultural universities in China, yet we are now 16 in the world. When I took over the job, it was somewhere in the 50 or even less. Then I said, we are going to move forward. Next one. And again, academic ranking of world universities is the one which we need to look at. It is purely based on metrics, Nobel Prize, or the high sites, or the quality of the academic staff, the papers you publish, the citation of the papers, and so on. It is not based on a survey. It is based on pure metrics. And you can see my university is now still holding on 100. It's very hard to compete with large universities in the United States and also in China. China is moving very fast. So in the ranking, they used to combine life and agriculture science together, and we lobbied that we need to separate them. So life science people used to tell me that you are doing well because of us. I said, no, we're doing our own right. Look at that. As soon as we separated, we are now 14, 14, 16. It fluctuates. To maintain that is going to be very hard. So next one. Next one. Just to push everything, because others push everything for that. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So someone mentioned that 650 or whatever papers, books, book chapters, and short articles. I don't really like to write a lot of book chapters, because after publishing good papers, you convert them into book chapters. Don't go and write book chapters first. Review is a big problem. We were talking with the Srinivasan that to review other people's papers, it takes time. So you must also give back. When I contact you to review certain papers, please do accept it. Renu has done some of them for me and so on. Editorial board, I'm now resigning from many editorial board because it has been a long time. It takes a lot of time. Highly cited, which has been very good for the university personally. And did I pass the test? I would say, I don't know. I'm still working and I'm still reading. I cannot say I passed the test. Next one. You know, I won't show a lot of papers. So a lot of times people say, oh, you cannot publish papers in Nature or Nature Plants or PNAS. This is just an example. I put together something we have done, rediscovering Asia's forgotten crops to fight chronic and hidden hunger. And it really is a good paper, and I'm sure that it will be cited many times. But it is pretty hard to get it published. But I'm not a molecular scientist, so I was able to do that with the help of my colleagues from FAO and so on. Next one. And this is another classical one. Being an agronomy specialist in crop physiology to publish in PNAS, this was published late last year. Why I'm showing is not to show off my publication, but this is 12 years of experiment in farmers' field in China, where we looked at the different cropping systems and we looked at the greenhouse gas emission, the carbon footprint. And PNAS, it took 1 year. There was a critical reviews, but it's published again. And another student of mine from Japan, he just published last month the one in PNAS on the rice root system. Next one, last paper. Again, the collaboration you can see with Rajiv Washni and a lot of people from India. And we worked hard since 2014. There's an echo coming, isn't it? 2014, we started the work, and 2 years of intensive scrutiny by the system. And many reviewers came back with strong comments. One reviewer was really attacking us, but we worked very patiently through the system, and you got a number of Indian authors. This is my first paper in Nature. I had Nature Genetics, Nature Plants, and so on. But this is really a good achievement for agriculture and also for India and other collaborators. So this was published this year. A lot of work. You can do it, and there is IRI people are there here, Bharadwaj and others are there. So thank you. Next one. Okay, now real talk starts now. Can you push? I can't control from here. Okay, don't push too much. That's it. So, tips for you to start it. Get started. Get started. This is the biggest problem. I find it very difficult. I avoid that writing. I will wait, and as I got other things, I'm busy in meetings. I do. So this is the most difficult thing for all of you, including me. Keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. There is no other solution. There is no magic solution. You cannot blame your supervisor. You cannot, we students always blame the supervisor. Ruchi Bansal says that she was spent about 6 months in my lab, and anytime she wants, she knocks the door, I give chance for her to work. So why there are so many distractions? Because you want to make distractions, right? Make sure you finish. Make sure you finish. Make sure you finish. Many people start and say, oh, people come to my lab and my office and say, I have 6 papers I'm writing. I said, don't worry about 6 papers. Put 1 paper, put a date when you will complete. So a lot of students and young people want to work in the lab like a dog and get tired, go and eat your dinner, sleep, next day come to the lab, doing extraction, this and that. And I just was talking to Sneha. So much she is doing her PhD work. And again, there must be a time to stop it. You must stop it because you are not going to solve the world problem by yourself. So I find this second most difficult stage. Next one. A lot of these things are known to you, but I'm going to really challenge you. Next one. Oh, go back. Yeah. So remember, this is another biggest problem I find. A lot of people come and try to publish and they've already done the damage. Many people approach, I want to publish. I said, I can't help. You run the experiment and now I cannot change. So remember, the paper starts long before the fingers hit the keyboard. So I'll come back to that. What is your hypothesis? Many papers I read, there is no hypothesis. For me as a scientist, if no hypothesis, it's rubbish. Design of experiment is absolutely critical. Good journals will kill it because you haven't done that. Collection of the quality data. You collect everything, sure, but what is the real data to be collected? Correct analysis, this is very important because you are proving that this is different. Finally, when to stop experiments and set aside time to write. PhD students and young researchers should stop, otherwise their grant will run out and they will never do, they will go for another grant. And if you go back and look at many papers you have not written, why don't you spend time? Directors and deans should help. If you want to take a break for 1 year, go and do that rather than continuing doing experiments and so on. Is it clear? If you have some problems, stop me because I'm getting excited. Danger. One of the dangers is that what happens is that you've done a wonderful project, you did the experiment, you started doing bit of presentation in your departmental seminars, then you think that there's nothing new. Then you think that, oh, it's all known to everyone. No, only few people know it. So then your tendency is that, oh, I don't want to write. I already gave a seminar at the Indian Society of Plant Physiology Congress and so on. So that is a danger. You must say that this is new. I must publish. I want to get it out to the world. So what is obvious to you is still unknown to the rest of the world. If you don't publish, I say it doesn't exist. You may say, I did a wonderful work in IRI in the last 3 years on drought, but then I ask, where is the paper? Oh, I haven't published. It's in my filing cabinet. So I say, you haven't done it, rubbish. So go and do it. Next one. Next one. So preparing your results for publication, maximizing your chances to get your manuscript rapidly accepted. This is where I'm stopping. Next one. The next one is what to publish, where to publish. So full-length articles around 500. Some journals say up to 6,000, sorry, 5,000. A series of experiments can make a story. To be experiment 1, experiment 2, experiment 3, or number of years of field trials. General rule is that better to publish one solid paper rather than dividing into 3 papers. So you remember those people are in the senior year, they say, they put a title 1, 2, 3, get lost. To me, the number is important, but more important is the quality. So throw any data which is not important or put it in the supplementary, have a solid 1 paper on that story. Next one. Short notes, this is not really very popular these days, but there was a time when short notes were given because you wanted to publish rapidly. Nowadays, with e-publication, it can be published faster. So there's not much in it. Articles in books and reports are less prestigious. So I really find it very hard, people approaching to edit, co-edit books, etc. And in India, there is a trend that many people are publishing books every day. I think we should really discourage that. What is needed is that when you have published many papers in a thematic way, then it is time to compile all that together into a book. So don't jump on, particularly young people, tell them to do some original research and review papers and later on do some book chapters. So next one. So where to publish? This is first thing people ask, of course, very, very good question. So first look at who are the editorial board? Are they reputed people? Next one. Which journals do you cite papers in your reference list? So you look at and say, these are the most of the reference. That means that is the journal where you should be targeting. And which journal publish similar topics. So these days you can look at final decision, prestige, impact factor. I'll talk about that later. Time to publish. Some papers, journals are still so slow. It takes time. So for example, advances in agronomy, I got a paper. Now it's just online. It took more than 1.5 years, but I had the patience to wait. But young people who want to publish and then they want to get a PDF, postdoctoral fellowship, etc., then you need to think about some rapid publication. Your experience with a specific journals, attitude of reviewers and editors. You know, there was a time when they don't like Chinese papers. Now they all want Chinese papers. There was a time they don't like research papers from India. Now that is changing. We have to change that. So there is a perception in people that, oh, Indian research is not good. I don't like that. So we really need to look at that. Page charges, it's very expensive, $2,000, $3,000. I prefer to publish in open access, but if they charge so much, I find it very hard. Then charges for color photos, these are not very important because now it's online. And the printed version, they say, oh, you want to pay? I said, no, I don't want to pay because it's mostly online as well. Next one, let's move on. So I'm sure that many people know what is impact factor. Let's look at it. It's simply an indicator of the quality of a journal, narrowly defined discipline. Example, agriculture science, plant science, and I'm sure there are some microbiologists here. It is silly to compare impact factors between discipline. Example, agriculture versus molecular biology. I'll show you why. I love to have published in agriculture journals, and I look at the journals within that group, and I go for the top journal within that rather than I comparing impact factor of a nature article. Next one. Thank you. Just put it all. There's a few things coming. Put it all. Yeah. Okay, so the impact factor of a journal for 2018 is citation of the 2018 to article published in 2017, that's let's say 270, and 216, which the previous year, 359, the sum is 629. The number of articles published in 2017 is 213 in that journal. The number of articles published in 2016 is 198, and that is the sum is 402. The calculation of citation to recent article divided by the number of recent articles, and that comes around 1 point, if the mathematics is right, 1 point something. So that's how the journals calculate. They look at a 5-year impact factor, etc. Next one. Just next one. So let us look at here a medical molecular journal, right? And what I have plotted here is the year published, 1999 to 2003, cites in 2004. Immediately you can see that that kind of journals gets cited immediately after publication. But if you look at the long-term citation, it's not very high. So see that 1999 only very small, whereas 2003 and all on a sudden you get immediate spark. Next one. Next one. Thanks, Sudhi. So here is an agriculture environmental science journal. Exactly what I plotted here, 2003, 1999. What is that? A paper I published in 1999 is still being cited. So if I published in 2003, it's going to take time for those journals. So young people doesn't have the patience. They say, I'm not getting cited, but I'm happy. This is it. So the difference. Next one. So the simple thing is that you can't compare impact factors across disciplines. So the way forward is that if I'm in agricultural science, I look at the top web of science journals in agriculture science, and my aspiration should be published in the top 10%, top 20%. That's the way you should proceed. Don't compare between disciplines. And also deans and directors should not penalize Dr. Bharadwaj publishing in a breeding journal, which has only an impact factor of 2 or 1.8, because that's the nature of Euphytica or plant breeding journal. They don't have a high impact factor, but it is a good journal. Yeah, keep pushing. Yeah. So plan your experiments in such a way that data can be published. This have been mostly for your students here. The hypothesis may not be the same you wish to use when publishing the data. You can change the hypothesis later. For me, the research without a hypothesis is hard to write, but some cases you can have not hypothesis. Just like an inventory, you're reporting some data or finding a new species of a pathogen has been identified, etc. That's fine. But to me, summarize, you need to really plan research question hypothesis right from the beginning. Next one. So sometimes there are good reasons. Think twice before you start your experiment. I think this is something which I would like to see the postgraduate students do. Should not be rushed. At least 6 months to 1 year should be given to develop a good research proposal and hypothesis. Otherwise, you end up in trouble. Next one. Okay, data that not have been published do not exist. I already said that. People say I did wonderful experiment in IRI, but to me that means nothing, right? Because I'm an outsider. If you do not publish your data, you might as well do not do the experiment. My research fellows, postdoctoral fellows want to do experiment. I said, where do you want to publish? What do you want to do it? Ah, sir, we will do it after getting, no, I want to know when. So good papers we published, we wanted to get into plant cell environment because being a physiologist here or Journal of Experimental Botany, then I go and look at what they do, design your experiments in such a way. Some journals say if you don't have X number of molecular data, 350 observations or 2 environmental data, you won't be able to publish. So if you don't plan, then you can't publish. And published data can make a lasting impression. We heard that because that is really important because no one can take away. It is there and going to be in the literature. It is going to be used by people. Advances in science and technology occurs. Next one. So Michael Faraday, you all know that it's not me, said there are 3 necessary steps in useful research. The first to begin it, the second to end it, and the third is to publish. Very simple. So follow that. Next one. Yeah. Next one. One more there. one more. Yeah. So the structure of a scientific paper, I don't need to go through that, authors and addresses, very clear. Title, some need running title, abstract, keywords, introduction, results, discussion, acknowledgement, references. Journals like Nature and PNAS, they have a different arrangement, but it is the same. So now I'm going to ask the question. So you've done your experiment, especially for younger people. You have got everything done. Where will you start your writing? Anyone can raise the hand and tell me. First thing you're going to write in your paper. Anyone is brave enough to tell me? Yeah, there's one there. Okay? Materials and methods. Is that what he said? No. And table. Yeah, that's okay. You have got data tabulated, you got the figures thrown up, you have got hypothesis done. Now you are going to write a paper for, let's say, your journal, plant physiology, all right, or journal of experimental botany. So some said materials and methods, not there. Some said tables and figures. Anyone else brave enough to tell?
मैं तो अगर ये सर बोलते हैं कि
No,
ओपन कर
that's
तो
rubbish.
ओपन करने तो
You know why?
चौकीदार का
You
काम
don't
है
know
हमारा
what you have written.
हाँ
You write an abstract, that means you have.
हाँ हमारा तो चौकीदार का काम है अगर वो मगरी हो जाता तो हम चौकीदार क्या करें
I think that's wrong. I'll tell you why it's wrong. Absolutely. So you got a winner. So I don't have it. Now I'll give you the flower if you want it. So the result is the first one to write. You set your results.
Hello.
You got the tables done, the figures done.
Hello. Hello. I think we're ready. Hello.
Yeah. And you will start writing materials and methods you are not going to use in your paper. So the result is setting where you are. So the first one is result. And yes, you can have a think about the one-page summary of what you're going to do, but abstract is the last one to come. I'll tell you that. Next one. So, question answer. Begin with the result section. So, simply arrange your data in figures and tables. Are the data best presented in figures or tables? Decide which figure. Tables come first in a logical order. Decide the order of all other figures and tables. Make the structure of results in dot points. What you wish to describe. Design the sections in results in dot points. Don't go and write too much. Then make a structure for each section dot points. Decide what you wish to describe in each section. Then start writing. I always say to my students, I don't want to see anything. I want to see the tables, figures. I think Ruchi was there with us. We just gone through that. Ruchi said, oh, I'll write my papers tomorrow. I said, no, you're not writing your paper. This is the way we do here. Next one. Yeah. So an example of a structure of your result section in dot points. In this case, I'm using my studies. Root morphology. Within that, you have specific root length, root thickness. Root exudates, carboxylates, and phenolics. Effect of root exudates on mobilization of phosphate. In this particular case, effect of carboxylates, effect of phenolics. So a bit of a structure is coming. Then you have got the tables and figures. Next one. Am I going too fast? No. The style in the result section. Why write your results in the past tense? This is another one which people, because language is a big issue. Avoid complex construction. You cannot understand some complex word, then how can I understand? Rate of photosynthesis was not very fast. So what I would write, the rate of photosynthesis was slow. Why don't you say that directly? Next one, use the active voice. Mostly it is better to. I remember my first visit in Delhi. I visited in 1977. Active voice. My first visit to Delhi is remembered by me, passive voice. It's quite often people use that way. Nothing wrong, but I like the one which I did in the blue. The rule does not mean that you should entirely discard passive voice, but active voice is much better. Make it simple, not long sentences. Next one. Next one. Okay. Now, people keep on asking, shall I pay tables and figures? I think a combination is better. Here is I put a days or age of the thing, different organic anions, malic acid, etc. Don't worry. Then I plotted into this. To me, that figure is better than that table, right? So simple. I'm just showing simple things. Next one. Yeah. Next one. Now let us look at this one. This I showed in China, so that's why my Chinese pictures are there. So the yield of rice was XYZ tons for the farmers of Dong, Zheng, Cheng, Wong, and Shen respectively. Then I put it in a table. These results are easier to make when they're presented in a table rather than writing such a long thing. Next one. Yes, continue. So, but then I did in a order where the rows and columns were shown in a ascending order, increasing order. Yeah, that makes better because you can see low yield versus high yield. Next one. Next one. Yeah, it didn't make any difference whether it's Cheng or Dong. It doesn't matter. Alphabetical order means nothing. Next one. People do go and do this kind of thing. Next one. Yeah, continue. Yeah, yield increase. Yes, much better than we can immediately see that Shen did better than Wong. Next one. Then one of the things I see is that too much decimals in tons per hectare. People continue to do that. I think next one. So I chopped 1, 1.2, 2.8, much better. It's simple, but you try to do that. Next one. So include as many decimals points justified by the accuracy of your data. That's more tons per hectare while going for all those 4 decimals. Next one.
Publish or Paris.
Yeah, so I did that. Next one. But I didn't put the farmer, I didn't put the yield tons per hectare. All on a sudden, I got the heading. This is so important. Tables and figures to be standalone and self-explanatory. Okay, I may have mentioned in material method, but that doesn't allow. You have to have everything repeated again in the table and figures. Next one. Next one. So then I added the average soil pH there. Immediately you can see that Shen did high yield because his soil pH was high. See how you construct. Next one. Next one. Oh, some people say, oh, I would like to put it in figures. So here also you can see soil pH and rice yield, farmers' names, etc. Nothing wrong in that. I don't really think so, but it is a matter of an opinion. So I still prefer the table. Next one. Okay, continue. Now, this is the biggest mistake. X-axis farmers, Y-axis is a yield. How you can plot farmers to another farmer? Every time I see these mistakes made by many people, including after sending to the journal. Okay, next one. So never connect data points in the data on the x-axis are not scaled. Regression lines would have been a suicidal mistake. Next one. But look at that, it's nice, but it is not nice because farmer Wong and Dong are not connected, they are independent. Next one. So all figures and tables require appropriate legends. This is another biggest mistake people make. Describe what is shown. Do not discuss what is shown. Explain abbreviations if you use any figures or tables. So what WE? You may have said WE in your material method, but you have to repeat that in the table. What is efficiency? What is SE and SD? And what is the star denotes? People think they know, but we have to have that in every table and figure. Next one. Next one. Oh, come back. Then again, the main thing is that people use out-of-date SI units. So there is a website. Go and make sure that megatons, tons, all those things are very important. Journals will not even go for their review process. Next one. There's a website, and you can see I won't go through the SI recommended preferred units, non-SI recommended units, and all those. Next one. Next. Next. Okay. So results, figure 1, describe what it shows. Number figures in order of the appearance in the text. Table 1, describe what it shows. Lead the reader through your data from figure table to next. Arrange in a logical flow from section to section. Next one. Then continue writing. See, now we are not even writing introduction. Many people go and write introduction, abstract. Very big mistake. So have the discussion. So now let's look at the discussion. Make a structure of your discussion. Have some subheadings. Later you can remove, but I would like to see some sort of roadmap. Decide what you wish to discuss. Design the sections in discussion dot points. Decide what you wish to describe in each section. Place your results in a wider context, not in a narrow context. That's where a lot of papers get rejected, because you need to show that it is for an international audience, not just in Madhya Pradesh or Delhi. You may have done the work in Delhi, but what's its impact on a different environments and climates? Compare your results to those in the literature, then start writing. I haven't started writing, but get these thoughts together. Next one, Siddique. Finish with a paragraph in which you tell the reader what are the main points, take home message, conclusion. I think sometimes it lacks. You read through and it's not exciting. What is the key message you want to tell? Repeat that nicely in broader context. Next one. The discussion. The order in the discussion may differ from the result, because in the result you may have started with phenology and all the way to yield or physiological parameters. You don't need to follow that order. You may come and say that my study, the hypothesis was tested true or did not, it's failed. Then you see, and then you can change the order. Place your results in a wider context. How do your data compare with others? Finish with a take-home message. Next one. A bit more about discussion. A good researcher is excited about the result. Make sure the reader also get excited. As I told this morning, when you read a good paper written by anyone else, you feel it is really a good paper, flows well, beautifully done, clear messages, easy to understand, and so on. Explain why your work is important and exciting. And don't say this is the world's first. It may be world's first, but you need to really put it at. What is the novelty of that? What is the mechanistic approach in that? Not just describing data, just like picking stones and sand and piling it up. No, it has to be really rigorous. Next one. Style in the discussion section, write about your own results in past tense. Now I'm saying, describe published data in the present tense. Avoid complicated constructions. Oh, come back. For example, the rates of phosphorus uptake were not significantly different. The rates of phosphorus uptake were same or similar. Simple. Next one. There is some web links there. Now the materials and method. This is where now we're coming. So we never did materials and method early because you have done so much in your research. You are only going to show what you're going to write in that paper, because no point in saying you did that, you did this, but then what is the point? Once you know which data include, write up all materials and methods used to acquire the data, check if your method works, recoveries and standards, reference details of modifications, equipment, chemicals, manufacturers, city, country, this is very important. Growing conditions and treatments, this is why I said the temperature, not say room temperature in Delhi and room temperature in Perth is different. What is the room temperature? So a lot of mistakes people does that. Species, Latin name, authority, lineage, cultivar, variety, all that. What it means is that someone who wants to repeat that experiment or undertake such study, they have got standalone materials and methods. Next one. Include all relevant details. Check your chosen journal for how it is done, because a different way like PNAS and Nature will be different. Do not use modified after, but describe the modification. Say modified after Renu Pandey, but what did Renu Pandey? What did you modify from Renu Pandey? Describe so that someone else can repeat your experiment. This is the most important one. Be precise. Room temperature in Delhi is not an accurate description. Next one. Introduction is the next. So a lot of people, what they do is that they write in a title, they written an abstract, they written an introduction. No. So because you already have the literature done in the discussion, so the same literature will be used for your introduction. You already got the result. You are really crafting your introduction. Introduction is so important. It will get rejected. Do not just write this introduction for half a dozen people in Perth or in Delhi. It is going to be wider international audience. Rate of interested scientists, not only plant physiologist and molecular scientist, agronomist and a breeder, for example, want to read your paper and learn from there. Finish with the aim of your work and present a clear hypothesis. I see beautiful introduction, global context, etc. Then there is no aim, there is no objective, there is no hypothesis. That is another big mistake people make. And many journals quickly read and say, oh, is no objective, no hypothesis. No. Next one. So the introduction, briefly review the literature, and you already done in your discussion. Address wider audience, give the aim of your research. A good hypothesis is one that can be tested, but it does not need to be correct. You know, it can be a failed hypothesis, but that's okay. And research is researching. It is existing there. Research. That's what we're doing, isn't it? Next one. Thank you. Yeah. bit more explain why you did your research. The fact that nobody has done it before is not a good reason. People write, no one has done, so I'm doing it. But why, what is the logic? Follow logically from previous work. Don't ignore other people's work. Your project may have been inspired by a practical problem. So here you are, you got the Haskell-Kaiser point, or mechanical harvesting is a problem. And the hypothesis is that you're going to develop a tall, erect genotype suitable for mechanical harvesting. That's my hypothesis. And then you test it and say, yes, I was able to harvest. Just giving some examples of your last week's work. Next one. References. This is very important. Cite balanced manner. Do not oversight your own or specific groups. It happens. Avoid too many references of the work of yourself and your group, self-citation. In fact, in China, now they assess that they don't allow too much self-citations. And because the Chinese scientists are going for promotion, so the China is putting, you can put some, but it's over-citation. They avoid that. Cite a review if you wish to refer to the fact has been found by numerous authors. So if it is about some known fact, and then rather than going individual papers, you say X recently critically reviewed and found that, and it's a common thread. Next one. Referring to generally accepted knowledge, textbooks you can refer, but there's no problem. And next one. Format. This I find very hard. A lot of people do good work, but then the references are all over the shop. Then I check that it is not mentioned in the text, and then it is not referred in the end note is sometimes very problematic because a lot of mistakes come. So physically, you have to check everything and make sure that they're correct. Have a references in the list being cited. Next one. So we need to acknowledge the input of people and agencies who allowed you to write this paper or to do this research. Your supervisor, if your supervisor is not a co-author, your technician, if not a co-author, your colleague who gave you some bright ideas and critically read your manuscript, someone who helped you with the language. Next one. Granting agencies, funding agencies are very important because they, when you go for the next time funding, they remember you. And if you haven't acknowledged it accidentally, they won't give you money. Next one. Others, but you don't need to say that I just talked with X and Y, my father, mother, and all that. No, no. Your thesis is fine, but not here. Next one. Title. I haven't even written a title for you. It should cover the main aims, and so title is so important. The search engine picks up the title, so it's so important to get the title correct. Should appeal to your audience. Immediately, people look at the title, and then they will go and start reading. If the title is lousy, they won't read. The results may be good. You don't get any cited. Avoid titles with numbered titles: 1, 2, 3, volume 1. No, not good. Subtitles may get lost, and hence your paper may not be found in searches. Okay, next one. Running title. Some journals want running title. Some journals require. It cannot exceed certain number of characters. Check instructions. Cover the main aims and message. Abbreviated version of your title. And it is not used in the literature search. So it won't come in the search engine, but it is a journal requirement. And it's just a short way of saying that. But that's what journals need. Next one. Some journals. So it's not that important than your main title. Next one. Next one. Abstract. So now I'm coming to abstract now only. Vijay. So this is when you write your abstract. You should contain the aim of your research. So really, it is a mini introduction to the first part. Sometimes they don't say anything. I did a wonderful experiment in the accelerate that IRI, but that's, you need to have an introductory part of that. Very crafted. Do not use references in abstract. Generally, I don't like. If you must use, then details must be there as in the reference list, but without the title, because an abstract should stand alone. Make sure the main results and take-home messages are there. Journals like Plant and Soil is really there. They say about a bit of an introduction, materials and method, results, discussion, take-home message. I think that is what we need to follow. A good abstract is important because the title and abstract is what the search engine is going to see, and then people get interested. They go online and get that, or contact you for the paper. Next one. Choose a limited number of keywords. Keywords are important. Adequately cover your research. Do not use words that are already in the title because it's already there on the search engine. Think of words that you would look for doing a literature search, because yourself, right? Arrange alphabetically order and all that. Next one. It seems simple, but it is need to go through the process. Abbreviation should be explained formally in everywhere. Sometimes it's better to also have a separate table, because especially the molecular journals, quite a lot of abbreviations comes in, and you can have a table. Avoid using abbreviations in the abstract because it's not standalone. And yeah, so that is very important about the abbreviations. Next one. This is another one. People come and say, oh, I'm having a fight with authorship and all kinds of things. I'm sure it happens here. It happens in India, Australia, and other places. Make sure all others have a chance to read your manuscript before submission. I had many times my Chinese students and others submitted the paper, and I get this notification. So immediately I take the phone and say, what the hell you have done? Immediately withdraw my paper. And until I see it, I don't want to have you sending that. So be careful with that, especially with your supervisors and collaborators. Never add an author if the person has not had a chance to read the manuscript and contribute. Include the name of institute, laboratory where your work has been done. This is important because IRI want to get the accreditation or the ranking, and that's so important. So very important to add that. If you have moved, also add present address. If you move to Perth and say, look, done in IRI, A and B, and so on. Next one. How do you present the names authors in an international journal? Oh, go back. Given family name first. This is also a problem in India because the names and family names gets mixed up. And then one thing I can tell you that if you want to consistently use whatever you use, so Shiv Kumar Agarwal, he says Shiv Kumar, he just right. So Agarwal doesn't come there. So I keep on telling Shiv is not here, but either he has to say SK Agarwal. So put that, especially young people who are going to, that's the way you want to know. Make sure that you don't chip and chop, you just do the way you want. So it's a problem, but it can be done. Next one. What is the order of the authors? So this also comes quite often. Person who did the work and wrote the manuscript should be the first senior author. There's no doubt about that. And many countries, I won't tell the name, the professor did nothing and then he become the senior author. And I object, but I cannot challenge that, but it is a problem in many countries. Corresponding author is the one that will be the contact to the journal. That's okay. If a very good professor is a corresponding author, and then the student can give the corresponding author to professor to get accepted. But my preference is that in that case, I ask, okay, can we be both corresponding author? So I give chance to my students to do that. Some professors, no, that's the way they are, but I don't agree with that. And then that could be the group leader. Next one. Senior author and corresponding author can be the same. Sure, you can be the first author and the corresponding author. Next one. The research team leader appears as the last author. That is quite good, but in mathematics, it's a different way. The last author is the senior author and so on. So first author is not the senior author in mathematics. Next one. Mistakes, invalid statistics. For example, presenting linear regression on axis not specified. I said that. Example, size, species, and farmers. Units lacking tables of figures. Incorrect units. These are all silly mistakes, but it's going to be a problematic for you. Next one. No numbers or legends or tables or figures. I just see that many students, page numbers, people don't even put for the manuscript. Line numbers, because the reviewer find it very hard and then their tendency is that kill it. Next one. Low, very negative, not high, water potential, cited reference not given in the text, incorrect slopey style of referencing, data shows instead of data show, anthropomorphic reasoning, plans attempts, plans cannot attempt, plans struggled, too many decimal points, look at that. No space between values or units. 20 meters should be 20 space meters. 20% should be 20%. Then this micromolar thing, there's a space. These are all, I find it very frustrating. I tell my students, I'll do once. Next time I see, I don't want to see your paper. It is, make it perfect, because the referees get really annoyed. They will kill your paper because they want to kill your paper. Some of them are doing during their bedtime because they have full-time work. Make it easy, make it nice for them to read. Next one. Something you must never do. Never copy whole sentence paragraphs without referring to the original text. This is a big problem because you said something and you copy that and it will be picked up. Plagiarism, big problem, especially students. Worst crime in science, make you bad, discovered, probably they will bar you from that journal for ever publishing. We have some senior people who has done that mistake. It may run your scientific career, just don't do it. And then now there are programs available for the similarity index and so on. Many journals run that first phase and they say, oh, 80% is a problem. And you have a big serious problem. So look at that. Next one. Fraud in science, publication of results that you have not acquired, cooking up data, right? Other scientists have published results that were not. Being a chief editor of a journal, I found that they never did that data because you can see that they changed some numbers and exactly in the same way. They were not clever enough to change the numbers. And then we caught them and said, you have not done that research, but you done a wonderful story without doing that, modeling some other paper. So very serious, young people, plagiarism, making sure that it is difficult to write sentences and try to copy. These days you can copy straight away, cut and paste, but it will be caught. Let us spend a lot of time on that, even in IRI, how to make sure that writing, scientific writing, let's give more training in-house on that. Next one. Yeah, I already said that. So next one. Finally, we are just getting close. A few comments on language and the structure of sentences and paragraphs. Next one. Avoid complicated sentences. If you cannot understand, I think that be next one. Do not use words that you think understand it, but easy to learn using your computer program without checking the dictionary. I'll come back. Do not make sentences that are too long. Spelling checker and user. This is a big problem. Consistent with UK English or US English, but don't mix. That I find quite often. If the journal is going to be UK English, you stick with UK English. If the journal is going to be US English, you do. If the journal hasn't defined anything, you stick with one English. Okay, next one. Hey, this is, sorry, this is from China. This is all done by computer. So you can see that bowling room, sauna room, swimming pool, guest lift, business center, barber shop. It's all because it's spell check by computer. Now you see, next one. They did spelling check would not make. Sauna, it should be sauna. Next one. Barber. Next one. Ball, it's not a bowling room, it's a ballroom. Next one. Guest lift, it's a guest lift. So guest is nothing wrong. So the computer technique has to be done. So you must read. Simple, but it's important. Next one. So this is also interesting. Ex-situ. Conversation is a conservation. Dangerous, endangered. So the same thing, there were ex-situ, conversation, so conservation, but the spelling didn't pick up. So you need to read what you have written. Next one. Right? The information that begins a sentence established for the reader a perspective for reviewing the sentence. So we need to learn how to construct a sentence, a paragraph. Next one. An example of how not to begin a sentence, regardless of the P concentration supplied to the other root half. It's a split root system experiment. The P concentration in root half supplied with the 1 micromole P were low. So I would write the P concentration in the root half supplied with 1 unit P were low, regardless of the P concentration supplied to the other root half. How straightforward. Nothing wrong what is written there, but just how that sentence is constructed. Next one. So in the two, the important part is placed at the beginning. Therefore, that is the sentence order you should use. Don't you unimportant things first, give the important things. Next one. So beginning with an exciting material and ending with a lack of luster often leaves us disappointed and destroys our sense of momentum. Next one. Therefore, the structure of the discussion should be both logical and exciting. Begin with a brief overview of the importance of your finding. Continue to explain the rest in context of literature. hide what must be included, but not really exciting. This can be done by presenting in a table in results without further discussion in the discussion or in the supplementary material. Finish with the most important and exciting aspects, the take-home message. Next one. No need to use the same order in results, I mentioned already. Structure of the paragraph, next one. Text is organized in paragraphs. Paragraphs have a distinct structure. They are not arranged so as to have a certain number of sentences. It can be short and long. Paragraph begins with a sentence that sets the scene, an introduction to what the paragraph is about. Next one. Paragraphs finish with a conclusion. So each paragraph has got certain message. Next one. I found the following website very useful. Again, it is there, so you can go and look at it. So just take some photos if you want to. Next one. Final check. This is another one. People get already bored. It is more than having a baby. Having a paper is much more difficult than having a baby. I'm not against. We just had our first grandchild. Check the instructions for the others again. Did you follow all the instructions perfectly or properly? Remember, it's not the task of the reviewers or the editor to take care of details. You should have checked yourself. Your manuscript may be sent back without review if you have not addressed this problem. This is a common problem. You rush and yes, my job is done, but it will come back as fast as you send it. Next one. Before you submit your manuscript to journal, a colleague, friend, or a professor discussion review your manuscript. The suggestion may lead to elimination of small but important improvability of the manuscript. Next one. Send it off. Wait for the editorial decision. So we haven't finished there. Come on, next step. What next? You should receive a note from the journal that your manuscript has been received. There is a number allocated. If it doesn't happen within certain time, don't be shy. You go back and say, sir, or whatever I submitted, I haven't heard back. After several weeks, you will receive the editorial decision. If this doesn't happen in reasonable time, check with the journal. The decision can be, nowadays, you can look at the ESS and find out. Without revision, we have very extremely rare case. Accepted with the major revision, very often. Rejected without any invitation. This is also very common. Good journals, 85, 90% of the papers submitted get rejected. Next one. How do you respond when major revision is required? This is when people get angry. Carefully consider all the points raised by the reviewers and the editor. Very serious, every point. They have spent time on your manuscript without any money. You must give all their points careful attention. Make the requested changes if you consider that these changes are appropriate. Explain in a letter to the editor why you did not make any change. In response, you will need good reasons. Editor is not going to be on your side. Editor will be on the side of the reviewer because reviewer are giving free direction. Next one. Return the revised manuscript as soon as possible because some journals say X number of days. Try to do it, but do it in a logical way. Discuss with your colleague or supervisor and then work towards that. Next one. If your manuscript is rejected, a lot of people shout and yell, get angry, and that reviewer was a white person that is an enemy of me. Don't worry about it. It could be anyone. Why are you wasting your time? It is rejected. Okay. Don't write an angry to the editor and say, look, I don't agree. The reviewer was very bad and so on. The editor will say, look, I don't want to do anything. Next one. So don't get angry. So how to write a rebuttal? Be polite. Thank the reviewers and editor for the time they have spent. Explain your case clearly. Accept the editor's response. So we had a paper, European Journal of Economy. The paper was rejected. So we sat together and then explain, and the editor think it is good, and then gone through the process again, found another reviewer, published, highly cited. So there's a way. But some of them it's not worth spending time. Accept and then move forward. Move on. Next one. Carefully consider the critical points. Use the critical points to improve your manuscript. You may need to read literature more again. More experiments may be required. In the Nature paper, which I mentioned that we have been asked to go and do more experiments, more bioinformatics. So we did that. Revise your manuscript. Resubmit your manuscript to same journal. If invited to do so, choose another journal if not invited to resubmit to the same journal. Next point. Never submit your manuscript to an outside journal without appropriate revision. What they do is that the people just take it, reformat them, send it. Guess what? I will get it again. The same reviewer get it again because the world is too small. And I'm an expert in that area, just using me as an example. And they will smell your paper and see that this hasn't done anything. So he or she will like considerable amount of time. They will not bother to do that revision, recheck. So this is very, very important. Don't just change formatting and send it. It will come back a fast train. Next one. Send it off again and wait for the final decision. So waiting, patience needed. Next one. So it's a balance. It's a balance of factors. It's about science. It's about how you interact, how do you communicate. There is no magic formula. Hard work, precision, and going through the process. We all decided to be right, and there is no escape. There's no escape. You're going to get projects done in your life. You're going to have grants coming in. You have to write. If you don't want to be in research, get out of here. Go and do something else. There's nothing wrong. And you really want to be otherwise you need your PhD. It's not the best. You may go into other things. There's nothing wrong. You cannot continue to be a researcher without getting the government, getting the investment. And there is no magic solution. It's hard work and precisely sitting, putting your bum on your seat, doing the work, doing the writing, doing the reading, and there is nothing. That's how I learned. I'm still learning. Thank you, I think. Thank you very much. Sorry, it may have taken a little bit longer. Oh, no problem. I'm that is not important. Yeah, there's a question here. You can tell your name and where you are from. Doctor? Uh-huh. Yeah.
How to write a good review paper?
It's also a good question. I think the principle is the same for a review paper. First thing you look at is that why do you want to have a review paper done? What is the gap, right? So you will see that zero carbon. I was going to see that also. Zero carbon, right? Carbon emission copying system, etc. And there's a less and less information available. And there may be a lot of papers published. And then you can particularly do that. Two ways. One is that you get invitation from the journal. Some or you can submit journals or some through various processes. So it's equally important, but the structure will be different. You don't have a materials and methods. You still need to have an understanding. Introduction. Then I see these of points. Excellent conclusion. Redrawing because important. I think don't spend a lot of time. I've seen that some young researchers spending more time on publishing review articles, and you need to have a balance. Especially young people should have quite a lot of your own research established rather than jumping on review of literature papers. So a PhD student, for example, I would like to say a good PhD student or 3 good papers or more, whatever, and potentially that literature review of the thesis, if it is built properly, many of them publish in good journals. I have a number of students but published in Advanced Agronomy, critical reviews in plant science, and so on. So it's a balance, but it is still the same thing, structure, all of things, but the structure is different. For designing the experiment, we have to do these things. Exactly.
For designing the experiment, so when we write to the thesis or all these things, we write the review of literature, but we do not publish that.
Yeah, because one of the things that, of course, it's a must for a PhD or master's thesis to have a minimum review of literature done. What I said is that all of them will not end up in publishing, but if you carefully do it, can do it publication. That depends upon what is the gap, why you want to publish there. If there is already a number of, you go and look at, for example, the number of recent reviews in that area, and is there anything new? The other one is what I do is meta-analysis, which is again a way of reviewing. I look at close to 1,500 papers. From there we distill down to 900 papers. From there you call out, because some of them are not really relevant, not done properly. 300 papers. From the 300 papers, you do a series of analysis and then have a critical meta-analysis. Yes, sir.
Professor Siddique, thank you very much for excellent presentation. I'm Vendor, and I'm also a physiologist. Now, I have one major issue that we all face. You mentioned about plagiarism,
Yes,
and
sir.
you mentioned about similarity index.
Yes.
Now, issue is that you mentioned that instead of starting a sentence with regardless of deconcentration, we should write it in a very, very clear sentence.
Yes, sir.
Now, if I write it, there is one or two or maybe three ways of writing a sentence in a very, very clear manner. Now, issue is coming because we have thousands and thousands of scientists working across the globe, and similarity index checks across all the writings of the scientists.
Exactly.
Now, because of this issue, I am unable to write it in a simpler manner, and I need to, when the sentence shows that this is a similarity index, I need to change it, and I am forced to write a sentence in a manner which is different from that already shown.
Yeah.
This is one issue which I have. Now, you guys are also you are editor-in-chief. Now, what should be? Because I see if hypothesis is not plagiarized, if results are not plagiarized, there will be always some sequence similarities, but not sequence similarities, but similarities.
Indexes. Yeah.
Okay. So what should be whether the publishers or the editors of different journals should get together and think on what should be the basis of accepting or rejecting a paper, rather than, because I cannot write an introduction if I am working on zinc or phosphorus. There is one way, two ways to write an introduction. I cannot change it.
Yeah.
Second point which I wanted to share, and I wanted your views on that. Many times I have seen that if you want to publish a paper, what the journal wants is that you need to include some of the references of that journal in your paper.
Yeah.
Now, is that also a criteria which helps in acceptance of the paper? Thank you very much.
Yeah. So let's take point number one. So there is going to be some similarity no matter what we do, because for example, materials and method, your own papers, you referring some certain things. So journals does allow, because these days you can go and look at 20% or less than that. So journals describe it, you can. And if it's in the materials and methods, which is quite often, there will be more. The sentence is going and just changing one line or etc. is not going to make a major thing, because you just change the, instead of that clause, still will pick up. So we really need to really start looking where is the similarity that's coming and working. So journals have described, okay, 10-20% is allowed. Some journals come back and say you do it. And even when you do change the sentence, if the meaning is not coming smoothly, then no point in changing. So that's number one. So I think we should have a program for similarity index, cultivate that habit in the students, particularly in the master's and PhD students, because we have created new culture. Some of them they have culture. Then you said about what is the next question?
About including references.
References. Yes, this is really sometimes bad. There are editors who has been caught because they ask the authors to include their references so they can get highly cited. We have examples that have been debarred. To me, if I am the editor-in-chief, I don't ask. But after acceptance, if you have certain key papers missing, then I ask. So if someone come and ask before acceptance, then I'm not very happy with that. After acceptance, after the review process, And if the editor-in-chief come and ask here, there are 2 or 3 papers which is really published in Plant and Soil. I'm just giving an example. There's no problem in asking. But the other one is unethical. Next one. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I cannot. Methodology should be avoided during similarity checks. Well, methodology, still we need to minimize that. We can explain, go back and say, look, this is a methodology. The methodology is a standardized methodology. I cannot. And generally, the journals accept that. You should know how to interpret similarity results. Again, that's okay. The standard packages are available. Sir, we will take a question. Wait. Also, it's a diverse field and we're not being appropriate to judge scientists by bad practice and citation. For example, work on rights at oil palm. Coconut will be having a different leadership and citation. Palm will never have a good leadership and citation. So what he's saying is that again, you go in the agriculture field route. So the category of eyesight in agriculture is only checking the eyesight. The number of papers required for eyesight in agriculture is different than plant and animal science or in molecular science. What I said is that agriculture, there are journals we have to publish. Okay, small crop like chickpea, for example, only certain people are working in chickpea, but certain things, phosphate mobilization using organic anions, etc. That principle is still applicable to other crops. For nitrogen use efficiency in oil palm, and that may be applicable to another farm. So yes, crop is important, but it's not just, it is the real mechanistic things you find and so on. So I don't find that as a big issue. Common similarity and methodology. Then what is the other question? Anything else? Yes, sir. Thank you. Exactly. No, I think we need to know, we need to have a software to know what is there. Then not simply changing one word and other things. What is the major problem? If I have copied paragraph after paragraph somewhere, I have done the mistake. Can't be. So we really need to don't copy things. If I found something, so Siddique et al. Found that, and I may have written certain sentences and don't copy exactly that. Sometimes you have to copy and then you put it in inverted commas so that you're declaring today, if I'm giving a talk and say Michael Faraday, it's not my word. I could have removed Michael Faraday's name and put my name and say I said that. No, Michael Faraday is much bigger than me. Yeah, so use the package because you don't know. Then address what is where the problem is. The problem is with us. We plagiarize. I'm not saying you, but we generally as a community. But again, madam, it's important to start at the master's and PhD level, scientific communication, scientific writing, critical thinking, not about the PhD. I think we need to bring that. We have strong emphasis on that. All PhD students are free. I mean, people like Sneha and they already attended because they are now my students. They are located here. So that is important. Develop a culture. Oh, there's one there. I did not.
Is there any relaxation for
No. Yeah, but again, so for example, I mentioned in the materials and method, some of my papers I can't. So I go and argue that, minimize that. I say this is something I cannot do. I do, but try to avoid the same sentence again. I wrote in a paper in let's say PNAS. If I start rewriting that again, a problem comes in. So it is plagiarism in a way, and journal will pick up that. So we don't want to just throw everything the same. You just start developing your own wording and things. It will come. It's a matter of practicing and doing, checking and so on. Sometimes it takes to write a paragraph so much of time, and you get up in the morning, go for a walk, and then start writing. And writing is the most difficult thing. And if someone comes and says that's easy, even for the so much credit people with the language skills, etc. No, it's not. It is very difficult. And many people, I don't want to keep it and do more experiments. So head of the distribution says, stop experiments. We want people to start publishing or writing up. So this question.
Want to ask, but I think some issue with audio.
But he can give in writing. Ask him to write.
Okay, sir. So we have research assessment that one more question.
Common similarity, research assessment at the university. Its number of articles multiplied by feedback factors. No, it's not necessarily that. What we can say is that the research assessment is based upon a number of things, not just the publication, delivery to the new varieties. It could be extension, etc. But the publication you publish in good journals in your area. And impact factor, I said, don't compare molecular research impact factor to plant breeding impact factor. So we can educate our deans and vice chancellors about that. No problem. And then we can have some KPI, minimum KPI for each position, assistant professor, associate professor. So as a professor, I have to have X number of papers published in top 20% journal. They don't say what impact factor. So all come. Second one, I should have at the time X number of PhD students. Third one, I should have X amount of dollars I bring from external grants. Fourth one, I should be teaching at the undergraduate and master's level, and my teaching is going to be assessed by students, not the vice chancellors. And the fourth one is I must work for the university on various committees and leadership, not just being drawing the salary, because my university, my institute is important. I must fund it. So these are the things, and you agree according to the division of plant physiology. What is the KPI you want to come up with? Don't dictate it by the head of the division. Bring all the people and let us be realistic. And don't be afraid of KPIs. We will have to face KPI in our life. You, particularly young people, when you go out there, you have to be smart. You have to face that. You have to develop. Some we fail, then we have to work hard to get that. I did not get my papers like this. My first paper, I get excited. Second paper, third paper. Now I don't get excited. I get excited when it is accepted. Then it just move on, go to the next one, and help younger people as much as we can. Yes. So again, so if you want, I can go through the whole 1 hour about it. But unfortunately, English is the media going to be. Even the Chinese now have been going to China for the last 20 years. And you should see that now how fast they're moving. They could not even open their mouth and speak. India is really rich in terms of language. So only way is that do it. You will make mistake. Don't be afraid of it. Work with your supervisors, work with your peers, improve it. And together it will come. And it is only ways to practice. Remember those people who first paper must have been difficult. Nobel Prize winner, I didn't tell you that. Nobel Prize winner, his first paper was rejected. His first paper was rejected. When my first paper or whatever was rejected, those days there was no electronics, I throw it in the bin. This man kept it and he made a slide out of it, number one. Number two, he applied for those days $80,000 for a research grant. This grant was rejected by the funding board. So here is an example of a Nobel Prize winner. His first paper was rejected. His first grant was rejected. Now they were giving millions of dollars to him, behind him. He's developing a belt where the biome of the gas is monitored every day so that you can have a prescribed medicine, because your biome is the most important thing about your health. And malaria vaccination is working on. So when you listen to him, it's just exciting to hear. So try to get rejection papers. Rejected papers comes in. Then we just say, okay, that's fine, including some very senior people. We look at it, why it was rejected. Some reviewers are very nasty. They don't give the reason. No novelty, nothing. And it is up to the chief editor to look at it. But as a peer review process, 3-4 reviewers, if they reject your papers, there's something wrong. But 2 of them says major revision, 1 say rejected, 1 say minor revision, you mean there is some scope. But if everyone rejected, there is some problem. And the problem doesn't start here. The problem starts at the beginning, remember, not at the right. So write. Read. There's no other magic solution. Yes. Thank you. That's your.
I want to ask you that the setup of experiment. So most of the time, we find that but the seniors say that you should follow the standard paper from here. If necessary, to copy the standard protocol.
Yeah, I mean, first thing is that designing of an experiment starts with the research question you have. What is the treatment? For example, someone is going to do heat stress treatment or drought treatment. We need to look at what has been done so far. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So show what has been done and design. When you design, are you also looking at the interaction, the number of replications required? So write down. Don't just follow a paper I published in Journal of Experimental Botany. Some aspect of the methodology is useful, but you may modify that. You do it. No. But sound hypothesis, sound statistical design, and then you are trying to get results for the key things. So you may use randomized block design, split design, or a number of techniques are available nowadays. And some imaging one, for example, one of the biggest problems is that there is no replications in some of the imaging facilities, and because of the shortage of space and so on. But because you are material measurements, you can get away sometimes. And the breeders have got a different way of looking, missing plots and remal analysis, and so on. Number of beautiful statistical programs are coming. And man, a social scientist or a big village level. So you have half the village under best practice, half the village under traditional practice. There is no replication. We can write a paper because so many farmers are there, 50 farmers here, 50 farmers here. You split them into 2, and still we can publish that, not the standard design. And also now with the geospatial analysis, you probably can question about this statistical package, because I can get yield from this area, every little space. Then I can then look at the gradient and I can do a statistical analysis. But I don't have a completely randomized plot design or anything. So things are changing. There's one. I'll take that one. Sorry. Yeah. So there's a lot of predatory journals are coming. I'm not saying that it is predatory. Predatory is that they send you an email saying that they'll publish in two days or 3 days, and they take $100 from you, and you don't see that. They're not in the Web of Science. First thing is that go and look at the Web of Science. It's listed in the Web of Science. Unfortunately, many of the Indian journals, society journals, which has been here sometimes 100 years, it's not even if you publish in that, the world says you haven't published. Okay? MDPI and the Frontiers and others are new journals. They are online journals. They are rapid system. They charge a lot. Within the MDPI journals, there is MDPI plants, MDPI agronomy, MDPI agriculture. Time will tell, but it is okay at the moment. For example, PLOS 1 was a time and they're plummeted for various reasons. So we will see there will be some journals will nosedive, but the editors are trying to make it more stricter, etc. To me, as a researcher, I would balance out. I would still go to some traditional journals, theoretical applied genetics, or functional plant biology, or plant physiology, plant and soil and village research. This is all my area. And then I also go to some MDPI journals where I can. I have done in frontiers in plant science, I've done quite well so far. So it's a balancing again. But faster publication, good review process. Some may be easily accepted, which would not have been other journals, traditional. So they're okay. DPI is okay at the moment. Oh, sorry. Hi, good day. My question is for Sam. I already answered. That's good.
Sir, one more is there.
Yeah, and I need to.
Sir,
Yeah, you tell. You read and tell. Nice, valuable lecture. Have you wrote a scientific note on the topic delivered by you today in the journal? No, there are few other papers in that area people have written. So I haven't done that. I give lectures to do, and there are few papers you will find, and there are books available. There are websites available. Most of these things are available. I just simply put it in my experience on the top of what is already there, and I find it very useful for my students and others. So websites are available. Some articles are available. Yes, sir.
My question was that we have seen quite a big improvement in the ability of implementation.
Yes.
Timaya.
Yeah, the question is that the improvement in analytical infrastructure and things, I think it's very important. For example, people working in genome sequencing and genome editing and other things, if you don't have that kind of equipment, it will be hard. Accuracy of HPLC and things really made a difference. Flame photometer and things which we were going to play around. So people say biotechnology, it's only a technology. At the end of the day, how you use that, how you generate that data, accuracy of the data is very important. So instrumentation is important, but India is blessed with a lot of people say, oh, India doesn't have equipment. I got my students working here, got better facility than in my university, at least in your accelerator, Sudhir, and also some of the phytotrons and the design of a balance, which we are doing by hand. There's a robot doing it. So congratulations.
So I think there are a lot of questions. One last question from
Malini, yeah.
Launched like just 2 to 3 years after that's been launched. So how do you decide if you should go for the journal?
Yeah, so you have to be careful with that. You look at who are on the editorial board, who is the chief editor, because generally speaking, good researchers, I will not take up a chief editorship for a journal which I'm worried, number one. Number two is on the editorial board. Number three is that the last 3 years, who has published there? So if some very good people have published there, at least you can take a punt and say, oh, but I can't predict that that journal will be there. But generally, they are strong, MDPI, Frontiers, even PLOS is trying to come back. Yeah, but generally, I say a mixture of various journals. Don't just depend on one type of journals. And then you have to have a lot of money for the online. Thank you, everyone. And I think it's time for you all.
Thank you, sir. Your talk was really insightful, and I'm sure the talk today would be beneficial for graduates and early career researchers here who are going to start their publication journey. Now I would like to invite Dean Madam for her remarks.
Thank you. I'm sure you all will agree that it was a wonderful lecture, and especially for all the students. In fact, not only students, but some of the points were relevant for the even faculty also. So, sir, many points were really very nice, and specifically, I must say that Dr. Siddique said that you have to read. You have to read to make a good writing. You have to be a voracious reader. Then only your English language will improve, and you will have the skill of writing. You will develop the skill of writing. One point. And then very stepwise, meticulously, he did say how to proceed. Your gaps in knowledge should be very clear, and then you have to frame a hypothesis or your questions, why you did this research, or why you want to do this experiment. So if that is clear in your mind, you will really get good data, interpretation will be good, and analysis will be good. So that way, and then you have to start writing with the results. Somebody said abstract or review. It's there in your mind, at the back of the mind. But real writing should start from the results. Very well said, Dr. Siddique. And another point which, sir, you mentioned about no comparison of the impact factors across different disciplines. So, and we also have time to time set benchmark from the PG school. And recently we thought of, like, we have NAS ratings, sir. You were aware of it. And of course, impact factor only gives us a NAS rating also. So for some of the disciplines where there are not many journals are there of high impact factor, there we have given a lesser benchmark because they do not have options to publish in a good impact journals. But for certain areas like molecular biology or biochemistry or plant physiology, and for that matter, many of the basic sciences disciplines, there you can publish in good impact journals. So there the benchmark is a little higher. And all students know that we also have plagiarism check before the thesis submission. So that we critically look into, and unless it is below 20%, we do not accept the thesis also. But then definitely there is a much scope to improve upon, and that improvement will come from the self-analysis. You know, plagiarism all comes from the within ourselves only. We know ourselves that where we are copying, where we are repeating the sentences or picking up from the literature. So there, if you are keeping a check on that, then you will not end up disappointed at the end of submitting your manuscript if it is being rejected, or based on only plagiarism, it is being sent back to you. So that self-analysis has to be done at the beginning itself. So, sir, very nice. Sir. We are all very happy and delighted and enriched, and especially our younger lot, because we have all the postgraduate students, MSc and PhD students. And in fact, it was not for a limited group of students. This lecture was for all the students across the disciplines at IRI and maybe at country level. That's really a great job, sir. Great presentation given by you. So we applaud you and give you thanks for giving such wonderful lecture. Thank you all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request the Dean, Dr. Rashmi Agarwal, to felicitate the guests. With the shawl. Thank you.
So can we turn on the light? Yeah, we will. That's very nice. Don't need to see me every day. Thank you, everyone. Let's be a wonderful day. At the end, I hope you have learned something and try to practice that. Thank you, ma'am.
We now request Dr. C. Bharadwaj for his vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, dignitaries on the dais, Professor Kadambot Siddique, Professor Rashmi, Professor Vishnath, Professor Madan Pal, Professor Srinivasan, Professor and Guru Bhai, Dr. Bhupinder Singh, my senior colleagues and friends. It has been a scintillating lecture. Through our 2 papers of nature and nature genetics, which actually took almost 2.5 years in writing and replying, we do understand how much writing a manuscript and replying to the reviewer's comment actually takes. With almost 3 years of DBT ASRF programs spanning over almost 14 years, we had a good lot of publications. And we do understand that all these principles are put in practice by Professor Siddique. Actually, he came to review some of the students' works of that we are collaborating with UWA Perth, Sneha and Agay. But then it was very kind of him when Vishnath and Madan Pal have requested that he agreed at a very short notice, and then to give a topic which young budding scientists would actually benefit. And in a short span, I also thank Physiology Society, which made it online, where it was put on a cascade. Also, my thanks are due to Honorable Director, who had a short visit and interaction with him from 9:30 to 10, despite having a Directors and Vice Chancellors conference. And then there were interactions and promises to take ahead for the exchange program of the scientists and the students that would follow upon. And also good suggestions regarding how to change from evaluatory system to the metric system for better ranking of the universities. It was a last moment request for Professor Rashmi Madam. I know she had a lot of engagements in the morning, which she very wholeheartedly actually postponed them. Thank you very much, Madam, for the time that you have given. I also thank Vishnathan, who is not only as a head of plant physiology, but as a man of science, took pains to organize this lecture along with Professor Madan Pal. My due thanks are to the NRL auditorium staff, especially Dr. Bhupinder Singh ji, who has kindly consented to have it here. And thank you all for coming in. Thank you.